This is kind of a day in the life of a widower. It's been 8 years and 1 month since my lovely bride, Beth, passed away. There's not a day goes by I don't think of her and I don't miss her. I still love her. I still consider myself married to her. That's me. That doesn't mean that's how you have to feel if you lose a spouse, but that's how I feel. I was very fortunate. I literally felt my heart jump and skip a beat the moment I first laid eyes on her back in 1966. I remember that day vividly, just as if it was today. My best friend William and I were coming into the band hall area at school. We had band the last period of the day, and we were coming from the gym, from PE. And the school that we attended, now that building has been since torn down and another building has been created in its place. It's still a school, but it was our junior high. This was first day of 7th grade in 1966. And the band hall was in a building that was 2 stories. And the band hall was on the ground floor. And the other 2 stories, really, if you were, it's like a 2.5 story, because there were stairs to the up from the band hall level up to the level of the first floor of classrooms, which also on the opposite end of the building was our basketball gym. But between the basketball gym and the band hall were the classrooms on the first floor and then stairways to go to the classrooms upstairs. So William and I were walking in from outside, coming from the gym. There were 2 ways we could come, either through the school building or around, and so we chose that day to come around. And we were walking in the door as Beth was walking down the steps coming towards the band hall. My heart literally skipped a beat. I felt it. I grabbed William by the arm and I said, I don't know that girl, but I'm going to marry her. Now, backside of the story, Beth attended Southside Elementary, and I went to Northside. William and I both went to Northside Elementary. The dividing line between Northside and Southside elementary schools was about 3 blocks south of where I lived, maybe 4. It was literally 1 block north of where she lived. It was Cedar Street was the dividing line as to whether you went to Northside or Southside. So we never met until first day of 7th grade junior high. And Beth and I became junior high sweethearts, if you will. Oh, I loved that girl. From the day one, I knew I was going to marry her. But we became junior high sweethearts. And then in high school, we started dating other people, but I never, ever lost interest in it. Other girls were nice, and I enjoyed dating other girls, but in my mind, it was always, in the back of my mind, it was always her. It was always Beth. So fast forward to graduation, and after we both graduated, well, we all graduated high school in 72. We spent, 6 years in band together marching. We were part of the Purple Pride, Angleton High School marching band. We were under great tutelage, and we were very, very proud of being part of the band. I always say what happens in the band hall doesn't always stay in the band hall. But so anyway, fast forward to graduation, 1972, and we've remained good, close friends throughout all those years. And I still had an interest in her, but I dated other girls because she was dating other guys, and it wasn't anything that we did that pushed us apart. It was just the way things were for teenagers. Interests flip and flop in a heartbeat. except mine didn't really flop. In my mind, I knew I still wanted to marry her. But, you just kind of roll with the punches back then. So, long story short, a year after graduation, I was on the verge of possibly being drafted for the Vietnam War, and I didn't want to go into the Army. So, I volunteered and went into the Air Force. So, I had basic and tech school at Lackland. And this was in March of 1973. I had basic and tech school both at Lackland. And my first assignment was to Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas. So I would come home on my 3-day leaves, 3 days off, and I worked 7 on, 3 off, and not every week, every 3 days off, but most of the times I would come home. And when I was home, I would either, look her up, see what she was doing, or maybe I just hung around with William and his wife. And just, various things. Because like I said, she was dating other people. She had not married anybody. I hadn't married anybody. So it carried on like that. Well, after 19 months at Dyess Air Force Base, I got transferred to Germany. So in July of 1976, I came home for a 30-day leave. I hadn't been home uh, since March of 75. I was sent to Germany in March 1975, and I had not been home since I had arrived in Germany. So I was home about 2 days, maybe 3. And I thought, I'm just going to go see what she's up to. So I went to her parents' house, knocked on the door, and her brother answered, and he told me where her apartment was, and that she was working, and she would be home around 5:30. Sometimes she worked a little late. So I just waited till later that evening, gave her time to get home from work, and I knocked on the door, and of course she was surprised to see me and gave me a big hug and a kiss. And uh, long story short, we didn't miss seeing each other the rest of the time that I was home. We were with each other every day thereafter, and we just both fell in love. Um, I was already in love, but it was just kind of finalized in both of our hearts that this was meant to be. And it's like I said, we didn't miss another night or another day without seeing each other while I was home. So I had to go back to Germany for 8 more months, and I'm gonna tell you something right now. That was the hardest 8 months of my life, being away from her. I couldn't stand it, so I called her from Germany, asked her to marry me. I thought, God, that's gonna be so romantic, calling her from Germany and talking to her, asking her to marry me. And I asked her, and I was just waiting for the reply, and she goes, we'll talk about that when you get home. Now, you talk about taking a pen and popping a balloon, let all the air out, and but she didn't say no. And I told her, I said, well, that wasn't the answer I was looking for. I said, but we'll talk about it when I get home. So we, of course, stayed in communications, and we talked several more times via phone. We didn't do it very often because there was obviously a time lag difference. Plus, it was expensive making phone calls from Germany to Texas back then, so I didn't do them very often. But we exchanged letters, constantly, weekly, and absent did indeed make the heart grow fonder, I promise you. So we'll fast forward to March of 1977, and I get to come home. And so William and his first wife, Catherine, picked me up at the airport because my folks knew I was coming home sometime in that time frame. They didn't know exactly when. I didn't purposely let them know. I wanted to surprise Mom and Dad when I walked in the door. Now, Beth knew when I was coming home. She knew all about that. But I asked her to keep secrets. And so William and Catherine picked me up, and of course, first place we went was to Beth's, and then I proposed again. Of course, William and Catherine had left, and I proposed again, and she says, "Get a job, and we'll talk about it." Again, boom, the balloons popped. I'm thinking, I'm seeing a pattern here that I don't like. And this girl is just not committing to me, and I was totally, totally committed to her. And I'm trying to figure out, man, what am I doing wrong? So anyway, we get in her car and we drive over to mom and dad's and we surprise them and of course, everybody was glad I was home safe and sound. And uh, so Beth and I I've been home a couple of days and we're talking and stuff. And I said, there's not a lot of jobs for anybody to get in 1977. I mean, their jobs were scarce. They were hard to come by, even if you were a veteran. Uh, I tried numerous times to, looking at jobs, and it just wasn't anything out there. So I had taken a military leave of absence from the Texas Department of Corrections. I had worked there the first year I was out of high school. I went to work for the prison system, and I took a military leave of absence. I didn't really want to go back to work there, but I wanted to marry this girl. So I said, I know I got a job waiting there. So of course, I uh, applied at the prison system again, and had to go from Angleton to Huntsville, which was about a two-hour drive, somewhere on that line, up there to hire back in and get my uniforms and everything. And came back home. Of course, I got my job back because it was guaranteed, and I got a pay raise in the process because they counted my time in the service as time on the books with the prison system. So there were a couple of pay raises that were involved in the time, and so I got a bump in pay, which everybody needs more money. So anyway, that night I walked back into her apartment and I said, "Hey, I got a job back at the prison system. It's not where I wanted to work, but I got a job." I said, "Will you marry me?" And she said, "I'll marry you." Happiest day of my life, I finally got this woman to say yes. So I did not know that that day happened to be her dad's birthday. So we went to tell her parents first, and basically to, ask them for permission, to get married, even though we were of adults. So I mean, we were 23 years old. I mean, we didn't need their permission, but it was the thing to do. Excuse me. So anyway, we went over to her folks, and they were just pulling in the driveway from her and mom and her dad from celebrating her dad's birthday. And of course, her mom was happy and tearful and cheery and all that. And her dad said, "Well, that's the best birthday present I could have asked for," which that made me feel good, that they were accepting me into the family, which, I was blessed to be accepted into that family. The Bakers were awesome, awesome people. So we left there and we go to tell my mom and dad that we're now engaged. And of course, Mama burst out into happy tears, and she's just bawling and squalling because her and Dad both knew Beth was the woman that I wanted to marry. And so they were tears of joys. And Dad just looked at me and he says, "It's about damn time." And Mom and Dad loved Beth. God, they loved her just as much as I did. Everybody did. Everybody that knew her loved her endlessly. Still do to this day. I mean, like I said, she's been dead 8 years and 1 month, literally today, and I still get told every day how much somebody loved her and misses her. Um, so June 25th, 1977, 11 years after I first proposed, we got married, and that was a great, great day. Best day of my life, so I thought. We wanted a family. We weren't sure exactly how many kids we wanted. I came from a very large family. I have over 400 relatives on my mother's side, and Dad's family is spread out all over the uh, eastern side. Dad was from West Virginia. I got cousins all the way up there. So they're spread out. I don't get to see them near as much as I do all of my family on mom's side, which is, I guess, basically my fault. I don't get up that way. I stay in touch with them, but I just don't get the privilege of being with them. But so we kind of wasn't quite sure how many kids we wanted. First, I wanted five, and she said there was no way that was happening. She wanted one, and we compromised, and we had two. And like I said, I thought marrying her was the greatest day, which it was up until that point in time. But then it took us a while for her to conceive. We had a hard time conceiving, and about the time that we decided, well, this it wasn't meant for us to conceive, we were just gonna kick back and give it some more thoughts and whatever. And lo and behold, she got pregnant, and our first son Travis was born October 15th, 1982. Um, Little bundle of joy. God, I was on such a high. Um, I was blessed to have a son. I just I didn't think life could get any better. I had a love in my heart that I just didn't know existed until the first moment I saw him, and I just was beaming proud of my wife and my son and the life that we had created, and I still am to this day. I still am to this day. Uh, we moved forward into 1986, and June 5th, our second son, Kyle, was born. And again, there's more love in my heart than I knew was in there. I didn't think I could love anymore after having Travis, but you know what? God puts all the love you need in your heart. You just got to go get it and pull it out. And we were blessed with two great sons. Um, I'm proud of them. They're both have their own families, and they're doing phenomenal in their professional careers. Um, their families just every time I look on them, I just look back and just think I'm a lucky man. I am a lucky man. Um, Travis has one son by a previous marriage, and then he's got two stepdaughters, and I removed the word step. They're my granddaughters. And then Kyle and his wife have a daughter. So I've got three daughters, one son, and they're all grand to me. They're mine. I love them to pieces. All four of them, I love them to pieces. Beth was around for Cooper when he was born. That's Travis's son. And she got to be a grandmother for 3 years. And if there was anyone who was meant to be a grandma, it was Beth. Her and Coop were inseparable. I mean, she just loved being a grandma. And she'd do anything for that boy. And, you know, Travis asked me one time, he said, "Do you ever say no to Cooper?" I said, "No, that word doesn't apply." And it's the same with all four of my grandkids. Word no doesn't apply. I love them. My job's to spoil them, send them back. I love them. I love my grands. Oh man, I love all four of them. But Beth got to be a grandma for 3 years, and that's a blessing that I'm so glad that I got to witness the love and the joy in her face every time she saw that little kid. Oh, she just, she lived, eat, and breathed doing things with Cooper. And I'm so glad I got to witness that. I know I was second fiddle to Cooper. Well, honestly, I was probably third fiddle first to Cooper, second to Riley, or Doxson, and me. Riley and Cooper and Beth were all inseparable. I knew my pecking order, but I didn't care. I got to sit back and watch and enjoy the love I was seeing. And I'm such a blessed person. I could ramble on a whole lot more, but this has turned out to be a whole lot more than I intended to put out on this video. But 8 years, 1 month to the day since she passed away, and I still feel like she's here. I feel like she's had a lot of influence on a lot of things that I've done. She's helped guide me in some times where I was having struggles with what was going on and projects I was working on or whatever. And I'd just ask her and Jesus for some help, and I'd stop, go get a sandwich, and come back, and lo and behold, whatever I was trying to do just fell in place. But before I wrap up, I'm going to tell you something. I wholeheartedly believe in the spirits of our loved ones. Like I said, I have felt her help me, But one morning, about 4 in the morning, I was sleeping good, and I tasted her lips again. She kissed me. I bolted straight up out of bed. I looked around the room. I was trying to find her because I tasted her lips. I mean, when you've been married to someone for 40 years and you've been in love with her longer and longer and longer than that, you know what their lips taste like. You know what they feel like. You know what they smell. I can't convey to you how strong it was. I could not go back to sleep. It was her telling me that everything was okay, that she was okay, and that she was watching over me, and I was going to be okay, and that whatever I needed to do or that I wanted to do, she was in full support of, and that she knew I would be okay. It's a relief knowing that that's what I believe and that's what I feel and that's all within my heart. You may or may not believe it. I'm not going to tell you that you have to believe it, but it's what I believe. But life has been a whole lot easier since that night or that early morning. I'll tell you what, I don't bolt up out of bed, sit straight up, because I had back surgery in 2009 to repair some damage I had in my back, so I was taught to roll out of bed. I bolted straight up. Never hurt. Never hurt. Not once. That was the most life-shaking moment in my life. And God, I love her. I miss her so bad. But I know she's watching, and I know she's approving, and I know she's smiling, and I know she's covering us in prayers from heaven. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. So, because I lost her real quick to a heart attack, she passed away, and to be quite honest, she was gone before she hit the floor. It was so abrupt. The last words we got to share with each other was, "I love you." And thankfully, she was on the phone with her best friend, and she told her, she said, "Oh, I feel dizzy." And then Nan heard her fall, and Nan called me at work, and of course I rushed home, and but we lost her. But man, what a life she blessed me with. And, I couldn't have had a better partner in life. So when I close off all of my videos, as I do, with hug all your family and friends, let them know you love them, and God bless, it's because we do not know the day nor the time when Jesus will call us home. You got to give that love. You got to share that love every moment that you can. So until my next video comes out, if you would, Hug all your family and friends. Let them know you love them. And God bless.